Greetings, you wonderful warriors of the broken sword, you. I'm Jonathan,
I'm Nick.
and we are the Gosslings, a digital speakeasy of Christian authors and esoterica explorers of the strange. Here we are once again with another great episode. Welcome to the show.
It's a big
everyone.
one. It's a big one.
We're-
Welcome. Glad you guys are here.
Yes, we're your humble hosts, and we are going to be providing you an awesome interview tonight. And I see that we already have a lot of people watching and a lot of people in the chat. A lot of our friends are already here, and yeah, this looks good, man. We're rolling.
Yeah, I want to
Great.
say hi to. I'm just going to start at the bottom here.
Yep.
Tricky subject. W gangs. Mike
Yeah.
Fisher. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Mike?
Jesse Zabater's watching. Hey, Jesse.
Jesse, what's
Good evening.
up?
Thanks for checking in.
We have interviewed Jesse before. We will be having her back. Check her out on the Gosslings if you have not yet. It's a great interview.
Let's see here. My
Maggie
goodness.
May.
Man, Randall Hill, M. Jeffries, Chris Caps.
What's up, Chris?
Oh, man, Jay Reese is watching. Good evening.
Jay Reese Bradley, author of the Brumbletide series, also has been a guest on the Gosslings, and she has her own channel that everybody should check out.
Absolutely.
Along with her own books, middle grade fantasy,
Yep.
sort of Harry Potter-esque, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Maggie May is
Yep.
watching tonight, and I think I skipped one. Who did I skip? Cactus Kicker. What's up, man?
Cactus.
Cactus is in the house.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, let's do our toast.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me get the
Absolutely.
thingy up here. You guys know the drill, hopefully. Do you start or I start?
I'll start it this time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Everybody grab your drinking vessels and follow along with us. You know the drill. Take up the broken sword of your father.
And strike down the darkness.
Amen. Ah, yes. Coffee at 5:30 p.m.
Mm,
A good choice. It is not a good choice.
not a good choice. Not well played, sir.
Not well played. Stupid move again.
And
It
if
is
you
a good
haven't
choice.
already, take up the broken sword of your finger, strike down the subscribe button. That'd be of we somewhat appreciate it.
Yes.
And if you've already done that, you can take steps to still help us by hitting the like button or sharing the video.
Yep.
Engagement, of course, is key to feeding any algorithm,
Yep.
especially YouTube. So whatever you can do greatly helps. Also, lots of comments in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
So great to see everybody here tonight. We also do this on Rumble. Sometimes I put videos
Yep.
up on Rumble.
Mhm.
I've been pretty bad about
Oh yeah.
getting them up on Rumble. Yeah.
For
yeah. But the
shame.
podcast is there. You can go to Spotify and find the podcast too.
Yeah.
But really, YouTube's kind of like a main deal. So subscribe, hit the bell, hit the
Yeah.
like button.
Smack it. Smack that bell. Smack it like it owes you money.
Like it owes you money.
Keep your YouTube pimp hand strong.
Let's see. Let's do our sponsors real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
First up, the Kothon Spartan mug. You should drink like a man. Really, if you're going to drink like a man. Drink out of a
Yes.
Kothon Spartan mug. Especially one handcrafted and hand-painted by Joel Cherico up at ChericoPottery.com.
Mhm.
He handcrafts every one of these. These are replicas of what the Kothon Spartan mug was, what the Spartans drank out of, and he designed these in collaboration with the great and friend of the show, Stephen Pressfield.
Old Uncle Steve.
Yeah, so get yourself a Kothon Spartan mug.
Yes. Joel has an awesome team, anywhere from 25 to 50 people who help make his products. And he has everything from bowls to mugs and all sorts of cool stuff. We really like these because we are big Spartan fans and big Stephen Pressfield fans. But he has a wide array of pottery products that you definitely should check out at ChericoPottery.com.
That's right. That's right.
Nice Kothon potter.
Speaking of Spartan-esque, tell us about that beard.
Look at this manly pate of the source
You
of...
and your lion's mane.
I am the Lion Man of Moab. It's the source of all my Samsonite powers. See? So much it even scared Leonidas here.
Whoa. We
I
got
know. Wow.
What's going on? We got spirits floating around here? What's going on? What in the world?
Egon. So, Giordani Jovanovic hair and skincare products made by real men for real men. You can see the products on display back here. Giordani Jovanovic is owned and operated by Mike Fisher. He is a good friend of the channel and also just a dear friend of ours and a great supporter of the channel as well. JardaniJovanovic.com is the website. Go there, check him out. He has everything from hair growth serum to shampoos, conditioners, body soap, lotion, everything in between. It is a wide array of products. I say this every time, but it is true. I came home early and then took a shower specifically because I knew I had to be presentable, but also because I just wanted to like smell like the shampoo and the beard oil.
That's great.
And
Well,
the
it's appreciated on both counts.
Yes. See, yeah, you gotta, a man's got to know his limitations. So, Jardani Jovanovic hair and skincare products made by real men for real men, or as I like to say, give 007 a run for his money. Awaken your inner John Wick. Be as sexy as you are deadly with JardaniJovanovic.com hair and skincare products.
That's right. Thank you, Mike Fisher, for the generous support.
Yes.
Let's see. Well, I think we're about ready. So we interviewed Gary Wayne.
We interviewed Gary Wayne again.
I love that guy.
Yeah. I love him. Yeah, if you've never seen it, you should go back into our back catalog, and we still have the Gettysburg promo, right?
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, Nick and I made a Gettysburg promo where we were so excited about our symposium with Gary Wayne and Derek Gilbert that we did last summer, that we like overdubbed this whole like
a scene from the movie
Gettysburg, and it was real. And that line is in there. We had so much fun making it. We're doing this a little early tonight so that we can work on making another promo for the Gosslings schedule. So
that's what we're doing post sushi after the show.
That's right. Post sushi, we're going to be working on this thing. But until then, we interviewed Gary Wayne, author of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. He has come on the show several times now, and he is a great friend of the show. He's one of the first guests that we ever interviewed. You can see his face on the t-shirt right here, where it actually says Illuminati, Naughty. Sometimes we're more of a wronger than a writer. And we made these shirts especially, by the way, for Gary. Like, we sent him one, and then we have one, and then we asked him, and he gave his permission. We actually are going to, tonight, we're going to make these shirts public, available for sale on our Teespring page.
Yeah.
Someone had actually asked about this in the comments a while back about the t-shirt. So we got permission from Gary. These will now be available, and Nick designed them, and they are fantastic. They're funny, and we love Gary to death. And so anyways, we had interviewed him for almost 3.5 hours, and almost like an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half of it were Patreon only. It was probably the longest Patreon exclusive section I think we've ever had, if memory serves. So it's a good reason to check out our Patreon to get the full gamut of topics that we discussed. But we primarily wanted to focus on two things with Gary. We were interested in his take on Atlantis. Biblically, and then mythologically, and also kind of how it applies to modern day. And then we also wanted to talk about the rise of AI with Gary, and how that sort of plays into things. So even after Nick edited out the Patreon exclusive stuff, we were still left with upwards of a 2-hour interview with Gary. He is so incredibly generous with his time, and we cannot thank him enough for how gracious he is towards us repeatedly. But if we aired the entire interview in one go, honestly, like, it would be a 3-hour live stream. And I wish we had that kind of time.
Can't do it to you, can't do it to us.
Yeah, we can. So what we've decided to do is we have split the interview into 2 episodes. We're going to air the Atlantis portion tonight.
About an hour.
Yep. It's about an hour's worth of material. We'll still have the same breaks, the intermission and the outro, Lord willing. After last week, Nick has done some real miracles, by the way, with the computer to sort of make sure that things are where they need to be. It happens.
Who knows?
We'll get there.
Who knows?
So then what we're gonna do though is what we're gonna do is on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time, we are going to upload the second half of our interview with Gary Wayne. So you get the first half tonight about Atlantis, And then on this Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time, we will upload The Rise of AI.
Well, really, you get the first third tonight. The second third you get on Thursday.
Yeah,
if you want the third, you got to be a patron.
Fair point. Yes, that is a good distinction. And then on Thursday, that is a pre-recorded thing. Nick and I won't technically be in the studio, but we have some pre-recorded intros, intermissions, and outros, and then I will be in the live chat the whole time with you guys. So it's about as close to a real Gosslings live stream as we can get. Welcome to real life.
Right.
If we didn't have to have full-time jobs, then we wouldn't have to worry about it. But
that's right.
We do, so we do.
Right.
Anyways, we hope you guys really enjoy it. The comments. I'm sorry, I've been blathering, so I
gotta mention one comment. Kenya Menard said that she ordered Heavenly Realms. She's gonna start
did you really?
Yeah.
So you're the one.
Yeah.
You and Tricky. Thank Tricky
you.
Subject. Dude, Tricky ordered all three. He ordered the first 3 Heavenly Realms books, and
awesome.
They came in the
Tricky.
mail like earlier. Last week, and he sent me pictures of his. Yeah, thank you, Tricky. And then, thank you, Keena. Is it Keena Maynard? Is that who it was?
Not Kenya. Keena.
Keena.
Yeah. Keena,
and by the way, like
we need some. What is it like? Alliteration? What is it called? Where you like actually type out how to say it?
Pronunciation?
Yeah, but when you type it, it's
articulation.
I can't remember the exact term.
Aristotelian.
We're butchering your name, Miss Maynard, and we do apologize.
Whatever. No, you know what though? If you ever want signed copies of our books, just message us at the Gosslings group at gmail.com. And because Amazon doesn't allow us to send out signed copies or anything like that through Amazon, but we can do that to you, or for you to you. We can do that for you on the back end if you ever want. So, and I always tell people that, like, if you like the first book and you want to get any other copies, you want me to sign it or like write you a note, like we'll totally do it.
Kira OC says, Jonathan, I just started reading Imperium Falling. Oh, what an adventure.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm learning at least one new word every page.
I know.
It's true. It's full of
Kira, I'm
jargon.
sorry. Listen, I'm such a huge Stephen Pressfield fan. Like, I read Gates of Fire when I was like 17 because of this guy, by the way. I only know about it. Stephen Pressfield is my favorite author because of Nick, and Nick only knows about it because of our eldest brother BJ, whose son, by the way, is hanging out with us over in the
we got
off to the side. Yeah.
There he is.
So, anyways, Stephen Pressfield is also florid and poetic in his language, and so I learned the trick from him, and it was a growth experience for me. So I kind of like did the same thing. But yeah, I'm really glad you liked it. And we just talked to Brian Godawa. We just finished up our interview with Brian Godawa, who is also a Christian fiction author and very well accomplished. We're going to air. Are we airing that episode next week?
Yeah,
I believe.
On Mother's Day.
So that's right. That episode will air on Mother's Day. Another occasion where we will not technically be in studio.
It'll be pre-recorded. It has to be.
It'll be pre-recorded.
I got like 3 women that are going to need attention that day.
Nick's going to be busy.
Yeah.
But I'll be in the chat once again because my mom's dead. So, and no woman loves me. So.
Wow.
There you go, baby.
Speaking of nobody loving. Speaking of nobody said, did you guys watch the crowning of the Antichrist yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
I have not had a chance. It's been a sprint all weekend long to get ready for today. I didn't get a chance, but I'm going to. And then we are going to have, from what I understand, is it okay if I tell him?
Yeah.
We're going to have Tim back at the end of the month. Tim Cohen's going to come back, and we're going to review and talk about the crowning.
Yeah. It is going to be cool.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we are really excited about that. So we got some cool stuff in the works. That's like the lowest Patreon tier grants you access to the full guest list calendar.
Yep.
Which is definitely something that, like, if you're wondering who's coming back,
which I haven't put out for this month, and my apologies, but there's been a couple of changes.
Oh, dude, May and June are such tough months to schedule. We got some awesome people on the books, some people that you won't expect, but you're going to be super jazzed about.
Dude, Quick 66 Hyas just said, just got the Kindle Heavenly Realms. Thanks for mentioning it. Fantastic. Hope you enjoy it.
That's awesome. Is it Quick 66 Haya or is it Qui 66?
Maybe it's Key 66.
Key, yeah. Quick 66 Haya. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That explains like the major uptick in sales that I saw this week. I was like, wow, where did this come from? This is awesome.
And Jonathan texted me. He's like, "Have you seen an uptick in sales in your books?"
I
I
did.
was like, "No."
I win.
So-
I win.
But thanks
No,
for
just
making me
kidding.
look.
Yeah. Sorry to disappoint you. Life is full of disappointments. Anyone who says otherwise is selling something. So,
Princess
anyways.
Bride. Is that right?
You were right.
Got it.
Nice. See, you know, Nick don't need no Dune references to roll. Nick rolls.
What's a dune? What's a dune?
You know what it is? It's Luciferian. But yeah, we are going to have to answer the question. We are definitely having Tim Cohen back to discuss the coronation, and we are very happy that he said yes.
I want Tricky to remember this comment and also make it when we're talking to Tim again. You can't polish a Charles the turd, but you can roll him in glitter, and that's what happened yesterday, apparently. So well said, Tricky. Thank you.
Rolled it in the glitter.
I love it,
dude. I will tell you, for anybody who is maybe like new in the chat, Tricky is arguably the funniest person like in the chat at any given moment.
It's pretty good, man.
Him and Cactus both. You get those two together, they're always fun. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, we're very grateful. You guys are great.
All right, I think it's time to play part 1A.
Yes, part 1A
of the Gary Wayne episode. We hope you guys enjoy it. We'll be in the chat.
A is for Atlantis.
Ooh,
I'm more of a treasure protector.
Nick Cage.
Nice.
Yeah, I got it. Treasure, National Treasure.
Nice.
Or National Treasure 2.
It's from the first one.
First one. All right.
Yeah.
All right. See, I'm getting better.
Yep.
Better.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Hope you enjoy.
Guys. Gary Wayne.
Your YouTube feed is crap. Stop wasting your time watching bot-boosted shills and self-appointed gurus cloying for your attention. Instead, join the Gosslings interview live stream and podcast. The Gosslings, a dark-lit digital speakeasy of free thinkers. A super chat of radical truth-seeking wizards who eat trolls for second breakfast. Topics that'll make your mama's hair stand on end. Ideas that'll make your pastor's knees knock. Guests that will illuminate the hidden chambers of your mind. And interviews that strike down the darkness. Welcome to the Gosslings.
We kind of want to see how Atlantis ties into this Nephilim-driven techno new age that we're moving into, and how it sort of overlaps.
So when you see the mythos of Atlantis, and particularly how it's been presented in our generation, but I think in past generations, it's just that they didn't have quite the understanding of the technology or that they wanted to make known to people who wouldn't be familiar with some of those types of capabilities. It is presented as a very high-tech civilization. It was the most advanced civilization of its time. It was recognized as the helm of world government and the most cultured of societies. It was the shining empire on a hill, so to speak. It was that advanced with its science and its black magic. And it sort of viewed those as the same type of knowledge. It's just that you have white magic and you have black magic. Right. And they lean heavily towards the end, more towards the dark side, again, with that sort of analogy of the force, right? The good force and the evil force. It's still all polytheism. So you have to remember that. So not only was it the helm of world government, not only was it the center of technology and culture, but it was the center of its religion sort of for the whole world. I mean, it was sort of as the dominant, highest developed sort of religion. There was other religious centers around the world with the same type of pantheon, but Atlantis was looked at as, this gigantic powerhouse that was the way things ought to be run. So we talked a little bit about Bacon earlier, and we talked a little bit about the English language that Bacon created to be the universal language for the new Atlantis, a book that he wrote, where you have this merging of the science and religion that would operate in the six, I think it called it the 6 days of Solomon, as they called it for this new age. And that you have these 10 demigod kings in this world government that they're trying to impose on the antediluvian world, just as you have 10 kings in Daniel 7 and in Daniel 2 with the 10 toes and the 10 kings that are talked about in Revelation 12, 13, and 17. That's the new Atlantis that they're trying to bring about. So they're trying to catch us up to that technology that they had. And they were, as I say, I mean, we get into like the theosophy versions with Blavatsky and the terms that they talked about Atlantis in, and the level of the magic and the black magic that they got to, it was way beyond anything that we're seeing today. And yet we're trying to catch up to that. Now you can catch up very, very quickly as this knowledge doubles and doubles in shorter time frames as we go. So it can happen fairly quickly. But yeah, when they're talking about the new Atlantis, we're talking about a time when the gods walked amongst us. We are talking about a time when the bloodline divine offspring, Poseidon had 10 sons through Clydo, a human female, to create these 10 bloodline kings. So we had the demigods walking amongst us, and we had this development of knowledge, and that's the golden age that they want to recreate.
Yeah. Helena Blavatsky, what was it? The sevenfold rays, is that right? Of the enlightened masters. I'm trying to remember exactly what that was. Help me out, Gary. I'm trying to remember.
You'll have to help me out a little bit more about the 7 rays.
Yeah, the ascendant masters. That's
the ascended masters. Yes.
Yes.
So the ascended masters are, then there's several groups that are talked about in this, but the ascended masters are demigods that have transcended to the next level. So we understand these as demons, and they're called the Great White Brotherhood. They're called the spirit guides. They're called all sorts of different things in that understanding and in the hierarchy that they're referring to. So these aren't humans and these aren't angels. These are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim and the Rephaim. And these are the ones that are located in Hades. Somehow, some way, they found their way to their heaven, which is Hades. They're not in the sides of the abyss, as they're talked about being locked in Ezekiel 32 for doing terrible things. These are the terrible ones.
That's right.
So when we talk about being in communication with them, they're not providing all of the angelic technology. Otherwise, we'd be there faster, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, so I think what has happened is you had this changing of the rules to a certain degree after the flood of what you can engage upon. And I think it's to allow enough time to fulfill all the names that were written in the book of life from before creation, to sort of, everybody have their chance to make their choices and not have their names erased from the book of life. And so that I don't think the veil comes off of this until we get closer to the end time. So it's a slower ramp up, but we will see a sudden transformation of the world where we're going to walk amongst the gods again. And then they're going to get out all of those angels out of the abyss, out of the pit prison. And then all of them are going to be confined to the earth at the midpoint of the last 7 years, because that's the angelic war. And they're thrown down from heaven. So it's going to be like the new Atlantis. And these 10 kings are going to be either descendants of the giants as bloodlines, or they're going to be new Nephilim or Rephaim that are created, or they're going to be demons that are occupying the bodies of these descendants, or occupying clone bodies, or there's going to be a mix of two, because you've got, iron and clay that aren't mixing together. The iron is part of the metallic dynasty empire, starting with gold of the Rephaim bloodlines after the flood, and the clay is a mixture of men. And in that prophecy in Daniel 2:43, you have the descendants of this metallic dynasty of the last of those 10 kings. They're going to mix their seed and commingle their seed with humankind. There's a distinction here that is going on. And so we need to sort of look at how we're growing closer to the new Atlantis as we progress into the fig tree generation. But again, we ought not to get too far beyond where we are in that fig tree generation. But again, things could really start sort of heating up. But I think that new Atlantis that the polytheists dream about, which is the new age, is just different language of the same sort of term. They want to have that golden age brought back, and they want to have a realm that they win, just as they talk about in so many science fiction movies. Doctor Strange would be the best analogy, where they win a treaty to be on their own on Earth, and the rest of the universe is reigned over by the Dark Lord, which is the God of the Bible in their belief system.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about those Marvel movies, is that they have really, and the DC movies too, I guess, they've really elevated those characters to the status of demigods. And when you look at it through a Christian lens, like it's really like you're watching mythology unfold in front of you as a neo-pantheon.
Yes, and the metaverses, Metatron,
right,
Facebook, the multiverse. This is that angelic technology and access and world that they're trying to bring about. And all of those superheroes are based on either ancient technology or the offspring of the gods with human females.
I mean, if you had said that 30 years ago, people would roll their eyes and think that's the most ridiculous notion. Nobody thinks that.
Yeah,
it's just fantasy.
It's just MySpace in DC.
It's just Marvel. It's come on, it's Captain America.
Yeah.
But now we're actually trying to create super soldiers.
Yeah, you're seeing their theology and what they want in those movies. They're telling you what it's going to look like.
It's not so crazy.
So when we're going to see these things walk amongst us again, it's just a matter of how and what format. But it's going to be like the days of Noah. It may not be quite identical, but it will be like those days of Noah. And in the days of Noah, which was 600 years before the flood and 350 years after the flood, we had giants in both of those time frames, and there were significant numbers of those giants, and they controlled all of the hierarchy. And except for the terrible ones, the Rephaim ability to reproduce, because as you take that definition back to Erit or the Eritim, has all these sort of interesting descriptions of giants, but it also says that they were childless and had a fertility issue. And so they had to intermarry with humans to continue. But those are the bloodlines that the royals, A-L, E-L, just a transliteration for an angel or a god, the kings of God, Rex Deus, the black nobility, all different names for the same type of genealogies. They are the descendants that are here today. It's just a matter, will they be presenting their own representatives for Antichrist and or these 10 kings, or will there be an addition or a supplementing of those bloodlines?
All courtesy of CRISPR technologies, you know. Have you we saw it like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's really hard to track down now, but have you ever seen, Gary, that advertisement from CRISPR Technologies about wanting to the cutesy little like kid friendly cartoon ad that CRISPR Technologies had, where they're like showing off all their all their little like hybrid animal people,
Yeah.
where you can breathe underwater, you can
Yeah.
fly, have you
Yeah.
like it's
It's
disgusting, and they
yeah.
aim it towards children. They
Yes, they did.
infantilize adults. Like I noticed that with remember like 20 years ago, or
Mhm.
25 years ago, when like the Apple the little blobject multicolored Apple
Yep.
computer came out. It looked like something that was made by Fisher Price, you
Yep.
know? And it's just they're angling right for it.
They were, and they were a little bit ahead of their time, but you know what? You look at most of those cartoon characters, you have the same thing going on in there. Uh,
Mhm.
so they've been pre-planning this for a while, but they've not been able to bring it about. So they continue to be more frustrated, and they continue to double down. They're eventually going to get there, but it will be the ordained time when they get there. But yeah, all of this is just that sort of development of that transhumanism philosophy, theology, and technology, that we're just starting to see that capability becoming more real. But now they kind of drop those primitive sort of descriptions of where they're going because of the technology that's now available, that they're taking it to a whole different level. So they're still ahead of us on it. They're
Yeah.
just leading us in that way. But that's what they do. They lead us away from God.
Yeah. I got a Patreon question from one of our patrons,
great.
American Cars. He wanted to ask you something about Atlantis. I told him we were going to be talking to you about this,
Sure.
and he wanted to know what your thoughts were about what do they call it? The Eye of the Sahara. There's been apparently some articles that have come out recently indicating that the Eye of the Sahara, which is in Mauritania, Africa,
Yeah.
apparently there is some speculation that this might be the location of Atlantis. What are your thoughts
Sure.
on that?
Well, it would be, remnants of the Atlantean Empire,
Okay.
um, probably outer parts of the Atlantean Empire. So when we talked about these 10 kings, they ruled not just in this island continent. That was Atlas's part of the empire, the center of the empire. But they were in South America, in Brazil, into the Colombia. They were in Central America. They were in England and Ireland. They were in Spain and Portugal. And they occupied Egypt and parts of North Africa, as well. And so they had buildings that represented their culture and their gods and temples. And so they had that same technology because they were just branch kings of the larger kingdom.
Yeah.
And so you would expect to find Atlantean artifacts. You would expect to find Atlantean architecture. It would just be part of it. And some of it would be built to replicate the home city and the home islands. So one would expect that as they reach out with the visibility of the magnificence, so to speak, of that empire. It's advertising all throughout, just as all beast empires did. So
Mhm.
let's say the Roman Empire is the classic example where they set up all of their architecture wherever they went.
That's so true. That's such a good analog for it too, because it's so relatable.
Yeah.
What city or place do you think was the seat of the Atlantean Empire? Like, where was Poseidon, if there was one? Where was Poseidon's seat of power?
Yeah.
Your opinion.
My opinion is I stick rather close to Plato's accounting,
Mm-hmm.
in Timaeus and Critias, and as Solon took that information down off the pillars that were inscribed in Egypt, that he was shown from the priests, and that many Greek historians testify to that as being fact, that he got that information, and that's how Plato set this whole story to paper, so to speak. And he placed Atlantis as the center of Atlantis. And understanding, he also talks about them trying to conquer the whole world with their armies, right? So there's a center to this, and this was outside the Pillars of Hercules, which is understood in the ancient world as outside of Spain and Gibraltar, somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean that's named accordingly. So one expects somewhere in there that they would have been located. Now, exactly where is really hard to know, and some people speculate that it slid down through some sort of outer crust shifting down into Antarctica, perhaps.
Mhm.
But I think it was an island continent as it was represented as. I mean, these people weren't stupid who are writing these things down. I mean, a lot of times the elitists today say, "Oh, well, they didn't know nothing." No, no, they only had more advanced technology than we have.
Yeah, we can't rebuild the pyramids.
Yeah.
Not at Giza.
Yeah.
You know?
So they don't know the difference between somewhere in the Mediterranean to South Antarctica to somewhere in the Atlantic or somewhere in the Indian Ocean. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how they bend these things like a pretzel, but that's polytheism for you. They
Uh-huh.
interpret everything into their own sort of meaning. So so I think it's somewhere out there. I think it's probably more likely it would be more closely associated with the equator, because that's where kind of all the great civilizations were on those parallels. Um, and I don't know how big of a continent it was, but I expect it was of a sizable size. Maybe not as big as Australia, but somewhere that was significant and allowed a protection that people weren't able to get to that continent to invade it.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Well, and you can see how they sort of telegraph that in that TV show Lost. You know,
Yeah.
the magical island that you can only find if the powers that be allow you to find it somehow.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's always funny how they, especially J.J. Abrams, because Fringe was the same way too, and Dark Angel, is that the name of the TV show? It's like every one of those TV shows telegraphs these like esoteric things that
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
talk about. You know,
Yeah.
Do you so the megalithic structures
Mhm.
in Peru, in South America,
Mm.
Yeah.
giant block on which we see, the Incas building their structures. Do you think that those
Mm-hmm.
megaliths that were precisely cut and fitted and quarried and taken up mountains and we don't even know how? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think that that is a remnant of some of that Atlantean
Yeah.
architecture?
Yeah, it's the Incas or any of the First Nation peoples in the Americas will tell you that they did not build any of these
That's right.
sites,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they inherited them, and they're way older than their civilizations, and they have no idea how old. And some of them will tell you that it dates back to before the flood, and these are sort of the remnants from that flood. And so when you get something like Machu Picchu, that's you have this city built up in the mountains to such masonry that we can't do today. Um, and you have this similar technology of astrological alignment, sacred geometry, ratios, comparisons and ratios to the earth, to the pyramids in Central America. This is not coincidence. This is angelic technology.
Yeah.
And that the legends that go with it is that they were built rather quickly because it was the blocks were created with some sort of godlike technology and then moved, like they floated through the air and into place. So they were able to build it. So and in all cultures around the world, they say they inherited their cities and their culture and their knowledge from the gods. So there's a standard delusion worldwide
Yeah.
on every continent and every culture that the elitists always say is just sort of this mass delusion, but have no ability to create any sort of science other than junk science to assert their theories. And it's just there to hide the real history until they're ready to show whatever that they want. So, yeah, this is all angelic technology, and it's all before the flood. Even the Great Pyramid. I mean, they say it's 2350 to 2450 of Cheops or Kefra. If anything, they only did a renovation on this. So how do we know that? Again, that's a secular dating, as opposed to biblical dating that we use for 2350 to 2450, but would match up after the flood from a biblical timetable. But you have this specific angle of degree. I think it's what is it, 52.5 degree slope on the Great Pyramid, and it is depicted on the stela of Narma, or Menes, it's called both, showing this Great Pyramid in the background that's been dated at about 3000 BC.
Oh, that's right.
I
Yeah.
mean, so did they just dream that up and just put it in, and then somehow down
Right.
the road they decided to build it, but then right after that they lost all of their knowledge and their technology, and they could never redo it again, and they just got progressively worse. I mean, the
Mhm.
nonsense of the logic that goes behind people saying that these were built by the Incas, or they're built by whomever, or the Egyptians, it just doesn't stand up to scrutiny, let alone the historical accounts from those peoples.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the burial mounds here
Yeah.
in North America.
Mhm.
And we kind of talked about that. I think we've touched upon that, and then I think you talk about it in your book, and then it also comes up like in Bigfoot lore a lot of the times. If we talk about Sasquatch, same kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and with like the serpent mounds, for example,
Yes. Yeah.
again, you get that imagery again of the serpent that's worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
As were the gods serpentine worldwide for the most part, other kinds, but they were the more predominant ones. And again, you're not getting that soil erosion that should be happening on those on those monuments.
That's a good
So,
point. Yeah.
and again, you have these same kinds of sacred geometry and celestial
Mhm.
alignments that are way beyond what the elitists would tell us that the people had the technology to do. So, but again, um, the First Nations people say they didn't build these things,
Yeah.
and that there's two different theories in terms of how some of the technology and stuff came about in North America as opposed to Central or South America. Some it has like the extension of the Aztecs or the Quiche Maya. They migrated up and developed that type of architecture, but more and more the evidence is suggesting that people migrated to the south to establish um, those civilizations. So it's almost getting to be an even debate back and forth which one it is. And the Hopi, they take their post-Diluvian history back to settlers that were the White Snake Clan from the island continent, which was Atlantis.
Interesting.
I think that was maybe why Graham Hancock used them, his interview with a shaman, a Hopi shaman, at the end of Fingerprints of the Gods.
Really?
Yeah.
Because there's such a tie there. Fingerprints of the Gods is like, it's a really fun book. I'm sure like not all of it is 100% accurate, 30, 40 years later. It's a great primer to the Genesis 6 conspiracy.
Yeah.
You
It's a
know?
good read. It's
Yeah.
a very good read. He's a good
Oh,
writer.
you two, man. If I could get you and Graham Hancock in a room together, now that would be cool.
Well, he might if we didn't talk about giants.
Yeah, fair
Hey, you
enough.
guys come to some different conclusions, but you look at a lot of the same historical evidence.
You might be like the Batman, Superman.
And that's it. Good night.
Good night, folks. Goodbye. No, just kidding. What do you guys think, man? It's pretty good so far, huh? The chat has been like, dude, I think we
Blowing
might
up,
have a
yeah.
record of 156 people watching.
Yeah.
And man, we've had tons of new faces in the chat. We're very grateful everyone is here for Gary Wayne.
That's why I'm cracking awkward jokes, because I don't know how to deal with that. Like,
That
so my
attention.
gosh, so many people watching.
My microphone's
my-
not big enough to hide behind,
It's my social crutch.
It's It's your it's like me and my pen as a fidget spinner.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah. Let's see. Do you want to put up maybe? Can you put up the books?
Oh
The
yeah, I'll
QR
do
code
that.
for the
Yeah,
books?
talk and do something while I get this loaded.
So Nick and I started this channel off as honestly a writers group, an extension of a writers group.
Yeah.
Nick and I are both Christian authors, and it has since blossomed into this amazing YouTube channel, this great community with all of you guys talking to each other in the chat, and a lot of you guys are hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
Everybody has such a good time, and but at its heart, Nick and I are still Christian novelists, and we write books. And so we've figured out that we did this for like a year, interviewing people, and never talked about our books in any of the live streams or anything. So anyways,
And they were like, I could write this up on my taxes if I were to talk about the books.
right, yeah.
So you're helping me by
Yeah.
letting me do this.
So while Nick is pulling up part 2, we can go ahead and talk about our books. I'll talk about the Heavenly Realm series
Go for it.
first, and then I can talk about Nick's book, which I always like to do. But I wrote a 7-novel series about the wars between the angels. It is Christian fiction, angelic war fiction. It's called Heavenly Realms. The first book in the series is Empyrean Falling. The QR code is on the screen there. It's available on Amazon. All the books are available on Amazon in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. We're working on the 6th audiobook right now, and I have the edits for the 7th and final novel. I just have to implement the edits and get a cover and get it produced. But it's Christian fiction. It is kind of like Braveheart meets Gettysburg, and a little bit of like Dogma and the Book of Revelations in there, and all the characters are very accessible. It's not like super fantastical, so it's very grounded, and it's faith-based, and but it's violent, and there's a lot of humanity in it, despite the fact that like humans are kind of non-existent or side characters at best in the story. It really is all about like Michael the Archangel and Gabriel the Archangel, and then their eldest brother Lucifer, who transforms into Satan. And the first book is about the war in heaven and the revolt. So check it out if you want. And if you already have checked it out and you don't hate it, leave a review on Amazon. I cannot tell you how important it is for Amazon reviews. Dude, they help us out tremendously. It's so crazy how like 5 minutes of your time, will actually really benefit somebody. I used to do that on Stephen Pressfield's books all the time, and he actually wrote me back one time. I was like, "Hey, thanks for the review." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Do you need an apprentice? So. Anyways, so I've been doing that for 20 years. Nick has been writing books for the past few years, and he has an amazing book. You want to talk about the timepiece, or you want to talk about
I want to do timepiece. So I wrote a 8-book series, middle grade fantasy series. Middle grade meaning is for kids 8 to 12, and it's called the Travelers League series. And book 1, the timepiece, is about a 10-year-old boy who goes on an adventure with a magical timepiece through 12 different fantasy worlds, where he has to learn resilience, being on his own, and doing the right thing, even if it means breaking the rules. And just to make it edgy, the wizard that's trapped in one of the worlds is drag queen, and no, he's not. He's not. It has nothing to do with that. But Hoops is the young boy.
Drag timepiece story hour.
Drag timepiece story hour. Yeah,
it's all the horrors that he witnesses as he goes through all these different worlds.
No, I like J. Reese Bradley.
The kitty cat boom boom room.
We write books intentionally that are not woke for kids. They have Christian themes, and they're not woke. We stand firmly against that. Kids should be able to enjoy a good fantasy story without those negative cultural influences, and a story that follows, the hero's journey and has a lesson behind it. Something meaningful, value that parents can trust their kid to read, and without, not having to worry about, language and violence and all that other junk. For 8 to 12-year-olds, it's a fantastic story, very much like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
So check it out.
I always compared the Travelers League series, of which Timepiece is book 1, to Harry Potter meets the Boy Scouts, homeschool Christian family safe.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet. It's
like
such a fun
I'm
story.
gonna let you talk about it next time. That's
Let-
really good.
Bye,
I will tell you
bye,
this:
books.
the book is available in paperback and audiobook.
Yeah.
Used to be available in ebook. I took it out of the ebook format because I don't think kids should be reading books on screens. That's just me. And since I have control over that with my books, I would never let my kids read it off of a screen. So I would
Yeah.
not try to make a buck promoting or encouraging other people to have their kids read it off of a screen. So
Yeah.
paperback's a better experience, especially for kids. That's science.
Yes. And
Trust the science. Actually, trust what I say about the science.
trust the Lord.
Right.
And trust Nick.
can trust
So, Nick's books are middle grade fiction, and so they're great for kids. He also has Henry Half Moon,
Yep.
which is available under a pseudonym, but that is really young adult. And then, and if you love what we talk about here on the Gosslings, you will love his book, Henry Half Moon.
Yep.
It is right up your Gary Wayne alley, your
Mhm.
Derek Gilbert alley. And then my books are really meant for a fighting age male audience. So we really like them. We're really proud of them. And also support our friend Adam Burrell. If you don't mind, if you have any Audible credits or anything like that, check out the audiobook versions. Adam poured his heart and soul into those, and he does an amazing job. He sounds like Alan Rickman. His father's an Anglican priest, and he is a stellar human being. He is a crown jewel in the Union Jack of jolly old England over there. We love Adam dearly, so he deserves our support. And I always want to make sure to mention that. But
Cactus says, yet here we are, Nick, reading a fast chat from a screen. But yes, true. I'm talking kids. I'm talking about kids, not us.
yeah. And
God forbid we model what we preach.
I want to give a quick shout out to two other people who are in the chat who have been friends of the channel, who have been on the channel, and they are dear friends of ours here and in real life. That's Jay Reese Bradley, who wrote the Brumbletide series. Check out her channel. Check out her books. She also writes middle grade fiction. So she's fantastic, and she has a killer YouTube channel where she interviews a bunch of people. And then also Gabriel Bello Music. Gabe is a big friend of the channel. He has helped us out tremendously with some back of house stuff with our YouTube algorithms. He has been a great and charitable, merciful friend of the channel.
Friend and ally.
And we've had him on a few times as well. He's had some of us on. Like, he's awesome, and he just had a new single that he made. He is a Christian musician and saxophonist. He had a new single called "Jesus Deserves More Than Four Chords." Everybody should check that out.
You see that on our last video, right? That we did.
Yeah,
Thursday?
that's right. The May the 4th video where we hung out with Gabe and talked Star Wars.
Yeah, it was fun.
Gabe knows everything about everything cool when it comes to pop culture, and he's super based, and he's got a real heart for God, and we're really grateful to have Gabe in our lives. He is a real sweet friend, and he stayed at my house.
Yeah,
and it was fun. Yeah,
yeah,
dude, he came through town. We hung out, dude. He's killer. So, anyways, let's see. Is there anything we're forgetting?
No, I think
we
covered it. We'll get the rest. We'll get the Patreon and all that stuff after the second half of the interview here.
Awesome, cool. Man, we got a bunch of new faces in here. Brad, it's good to see you. There were some other people in there as well. Sorry if I didn't get your name. The chat has already scrolled past, but we're grateful for everybody who's here. This might be a new record for amount of people watching. So, in order to not wear out our welcome, part 2 of Gary Wayne and Atlantis.
Let's do it.
Good out.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. You mentioned the days of Noah.
Yeah.
And Noah lived. He was born 600 years before the flood, and 300 and died 350 years after the flood. All those things are the days of Noah.
Yeah.
The Babel incident.
Yeah.
Did that happen within that 350 years after the flood?
Yes. Yeah. It's somewhere around 100 years after the flood, as you get the dating using the genealogy, and then that's the same accounting for that same date. In the Polychronicon and Masonic history. So, yeah, he would have been around at that time. And you just have to know, Noah didn't provide him the technology to build the city or the tower.
Yeah.
So where did it come from? And so the Masons say it came from Hermes finding the knowledge of the antediluvians. And in their accounting, you have two pillars of Lamech, pillars of Enoch. There's two different versions of it. Same story, though. that had the location to the knowledge that was buried in 9 vaults and 36,525 books, stacked in 9 vaults, stacked on top of each other below the Great Pyramid. And that he found the one that floated, because the other one was to survive an apocalypse by fire. So this one he found it could float, so it would survive an apocalypse by water. And then he brings that back to Nimrod. And so Nimrod takes this knowledge and develops the knowledge, and he's accredited with being the first grand master of masonry after the flood. He writes the first post-Diluvian constitution that isn't reformed until Heliopolis reforms it down the road, about 1,000 years down afterwards.
Wow.
And so this is the knowledge that he's building this tower with, and this is angelic technology.
Yeah.
Nobody, I don't think, really believes that Nimrod felt he could build a tower into the heavens, which would be beyond the firmament, right? And beyond that, right? You just can't build a stone structure that high. But he was trying to build it into heaven. And in other accountings, he was threatening God in his hubris speeches with his temerity that he would, if God stepped out of line, he would cross into heaven and slay God. And if God ever threatened to bring about another flood, he would do the same thing. So a stone tower or brick tower or a pyramid is not going to get you there. But in angelic technology, these are thought to be more than buildings. They're thought to be energy and portals and things like that. So in the Akkadian version, you get into their understanding, and they call it Babalu, or sometimes it's Babel, but it's the same word, but it doesn't mean confusion of languages. It means with the ILU or the EL or the AL in Babel, that's an angel or a god. And Bab is a stargate or a portal, depending on how you want to translate that. So he's going to do 2 things with that technology, and he's an archetypical Antichrist figure, which the Babylon religion is based from, because that is the root word is Hebrew for Babel. And Antichrist is like Antichrist because he has universal sway over all the Adamites or the Noahites at that time. Has this universal religion that he imposes on it. So he is doing one of two things. He's wanting to perhaps go into the abyss or into Hades, where the abyss prison is, and free the gods that he's starting to worship with the Enochian mysticism that he implemented on the people at Babel, because that was part of the knowledge that was provided by Hermes. Or he's actually was going to try and do what Antichrist is going to do in Daniel 8:10, where he goes into heaven and storms heaven. I think that timing is perfect as for the time of the angelic war in Revelation 12 at the midpoint of the last 7 years, and is going to try and storm heaven. And he actually succeeds in throwing down some of the starry host and trampling on them.
So you're saying that when he went
Antichrist
into the temple of God, you're talking about not a physical reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem. You're talking about he actually succeeds with a Tower of Babel, like
rending the veil.
Yeah, and with a technology that you can go interdimensionally, either into the abyss and or into heaven. And you wonder whether or not that technology allows them to be the ones that are going to unlock the abyss in the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm. It really makes you look at, again, just like we were talking about with superheroes, it makes you look at Stargate with a different set of eyes. That dude, they're combining interdimensional gateways with Egyptian mythology, the cosmos, and the pyramids. And
so
it's like,
let me go ahead. Let me just sort of link this back to some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier in the show. So when we talked about the world being this sort of computer generated quantum computer projection, and that we're talking about cryptocurrency that works in tandem with this sort of technology. There's a word that they use in the occult for both crypto and interdimensional technology, and it's called geomancy. So geomancy has a few different meanings. You know, everybody knows it's like the divination of geographical features and looking for water and stuff like that, and or
Yeah.
ley lines. They like to use their geomancy for the power grid that they like to search for, and that these great sites were built on ley lines. And very sort of renowned ancient worship sites. It's the art of arranging buildings on these sites. So there's an art or a technology or a science to doing that. And it's also understood as being, as a geomancer, you are like a gatekeeper who can create portals between worlds. So when you talk about this interdimensional technology that we were talking about earlier, that's using that quantum and AI computing, we need to understand that this is all part of that encrypted science, and the science of codes, the science of understanding the matrix and decoding that and then manipulating that. And that geomancy has the ability to create projections as in holograms. It's part of that same sort of art and science. So when we're talking about that image of the beast, it starts to sort of make some sense. And that this was also, it's also known in Taoism, the former religion before Taoism, as we understand it from the dragon creator gods. There's a following in there called the Feng Shui, and that is an understanding of working in the spiritual realm at the quantum level.
Yeah.
And it's a blend of intention and observation, and is working on consciousness and the vibration and the entanglement of particles as you introduce this geomancy sort of technology. And it's that they believe that the universe is a fabric in Feng Shui, and not matter, but energy and information. So again, it's the same thing as the divine essence that we were talking about, and that everything vibrates with its own consciousness, and that they're able to communicate with these particles, not just receive. They're talking about communication with this divine essence. That's all part of it. And so it's the eternal knowledge of the omnipresence in there. And it is just an amazing renaissance to the days of Noah, as it was both before the flood and then again after the flood, and including Babel, as you're talking about, as to that technology and the interaction of the fallen angels and the giants. And you know, those words, like the days of Noah, they're there specifically as written, and Jesus, being the word of God, he chose his words quite accurately.
Yeah.
And as it was written down in Greek, and it's the same exact words to describe Noah's generation. The days of Noah were. And it gives you his lifespan in Genesis 9:29. It's the same days of Noah that is talked about in Second Peter, in terms of the crimes that were committed by the fallen angels at the time of the flood in the days of Noah, both before and after the flood. And it's the same days of Noah that's equated with the crimes and the spirits that Jesus is talking to in First Peter. It's very, very specific language. And the days of Noah, I mean, a day can be a year or a generation, or it could be a single day, or it could be multiple days. It's how it's sort of implied. But when you see the fig tree generation immediately before the days of Noah, and it's the exact same language to the days of Noah generation, it starts to make some sense. And we need to understand everything that was going on, both up to the time of the flood and then up to 350 years after the flood, if we want to understand the signs that Jesus provided us.
Yeah. That's one thing that has really given us pause. And talking to you and talking to others over the past couple of years is the mirroring nature of Scripture, and the how like you can really find a compass heading, a bearing by
Yeah.
looking,
Well,
just like what got you into it. Looking at
yeah.
prophecy sent you to prehistory.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. Renewed my interest in prehistory for sure. And that great term that is talked about in Ecclesiastics, that nothing is new under the sun. What was will be again, is something we really have to understand.
Yeah.
And so when we see the beast empires that have come along after the flood, they're just trying to recreate what happened before the flood, and they're trying to recreate this Antichrist Nephilim type of character, because by inference, if it's nothing is new under the sun, and it's going to be like the days of Noah, then you would have had an Antichrist Nephilim figure before the flood,
Yeah.
and that Antichrist spirit has been with us all the time and has been trying to create a scenario through the beast empires where they can raise up an Antichrist figure like an Alexander, like a Nebuchadnezzar, except that that's what Michael is there to prevent. He doesn't prevent the beast empires from coming, he prevents the Antichrist from seizing power, because the beast empire is that infrastructure with its universal religion, with its beast religion that's part of all of the beast empires, which it will be reformed with the 10 King Empire, who hands their power over to the beast.
So Atlantis, so you have Atlantis, which was wiped out, and then you have it. It seems like when they were building Babel, when they were building the tower and the city, it's almost like they were trying to reestablish what they had lost in Atlantis.
Yeah.
God thwarts that, of course, but then again,
Yep.
we see it in Revelation. They're going to try again. It's like they're trying to reestablish the
They are.
system that they had. And so Babylon
Yeah.
is I guess, a corollary to Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yep. And an Antichrist dream is to do and try and do what Lucifer tried to do, what Satan tried to do. So in Isaiah 14:12, he tried to raise his throne into heaven to be like God.
Mhm.
Right? Antichrist is the one that's going to do that. And 2 Thessalonians 2:4 says he will claim to be God in the holy temple.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And he's the one who will enter into heaven along with the armies of the fallen ones to make war. But of course, they'll lose that and they get thrown down to the earth for the last 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my head around what that is going to look like. I'm sure John had trouble doing it, and he was seeing it
Yeah.
in a vision.
How does John?
Yeah, he saw it, and all he could do is write it down to what he saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you called that a vision.
Why is that, Gary?
Well, because a lot of people say that's not a vision, that he actually went into heaven physically, and that also that's sort of a sign to a number of eschatological positions that is a representation of rapture. But he was in the spirit.
Right.
And he was in the Lord's spirit when you heard the voice to say, come up here, and he saw these visions of what was going to be.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like a dual prophecy of like Ezekiel 32 or Isaiah 14 or Ezekiel 28. There's so many of these dual prophecies where what you have is imagery of prehistory, a prophecy for the time, and then a prophecy for the future. And this is a vision like Ezekiel is in vision. This is a vision like Daniel. And Revelation is defined as a vision.
Yeah.
It's not that he physically went in. He didn't have a new body given to him. He came back and had to deliver the letters. He likely died. We have no scripture to say he transcended into heaven.
Mhm.
This is a vision like the other great prophets, right? It is
Yeah.
like that. And all he did was write down what he saw.
Mhm.
But he was in vision and was taken up to the heaven in spirit. And when you get the word spirit in Greek, it's cognate to the Hebrew word ruach, right? And in the Hebrew understanding, and it's very important to understand that when you're trying to understand New Testament Greek, that they're trying to match up with words that just might line up with the ancient Hebrew, right? So that you get that understanding, even though you don't have the direct link. So when you get into like the great men, you really got to understand the understanding of Megas and Megastranes to understand how they relate to the Gibberim and the Rephaim kings in the Old Testament as being sort of the cognate sort of word. So in this case, ruach can mean a spirit of a human, a spirit of an animal, a spirit of an angel, a spirit in the Holy Spirit, and in the spirit of prophecy. And in there, he's in the spirit of prophecy, just as Jesus is talked about towards the end of Revelation. In Revelation 19, his testimony is the spirit of prophecy. Jesus. That's the spirit that he's in, the spirit of the vision. If there's nothing physical here going on, and it's a prophecy of what he wants to take down and what's going to take place with the churches, and then what happens afterwards. So just as you see what happens with those churches, you get a reflection of what's going to happen afterwards as well as part of those allegories, just as you would have in any of those dual prophecies in the time of Isaiah, because a lot of things that happened in those dual prophecies didn't happen in the time of the prophet. That's because it's now describing some of the end time prophecies. So Isaiah 14 is a classic one of that. Isaiah 13 is part of the same prophecy. So if just sort of understanding that helps you to understand the rest of the book of Revelation. And so what's really interesting with if it happened in the time of the churches, you also get Revelation 2:10, where you have a tribulation for 10 days, which is 10 years. So that's more than the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And then it starts to say, well, geez, how many tribulations are there? Well, it gets stronger as we go through the fig tree generation as part of the fig tree overarching sign. Things just sort of start to make some sense.
Yeah.
Explain the fig tree generation a little more. Like, what is it? How do you know that we're in that generation?
It's a very good question. So Jesus uses the fig tree for a specific reason, not only to future Christians, but to the Jewish people and the lost tribes for when they awaken, because he's the Alpha Omega. He knows who he's speaking to. So the fig tree generation in the Old Testament as a fig tree, it can be an allegory when it's used in prophecy for the southern kingdom. The vine is prophetic allegory for the northern kingdom. So the fig tree generation is a generation of the people of Judah. And the fig tree is representative as well as the tree that Jesus kills before he starts to provide his end time signs. It follows in the chapters afterwards. And he said that this fruit is no good anymore, and it's going to be destroyed. And it's also part of the signs of what's going to happen to Judah, Jerusalem, with the diaspora until the time of the end. And so the fig tree is a time when Judah is going to be back in, not only in the land of the covenant, but Jerusalem. And all end time prophecy centers around Jerusalem and Judah being in possession of the end time. And that happens in 1967. So if we are in the fig tree generation, I would say that would be perhaps the kickoff to it.
Okay.
When they took Jerusalem in 1967. Now, in the book of Exodus, we're told a generation is 40 years. Well, that would mean we'd be into the last 7 years now if you did the math. But we're also told a generation in the book of Psalms is 70 years. And
Right.
then you also have in Genesis 6:3, all life in the time of the creation of the giants for life going forward is going to be restricted to 120 years.
Mhm.
So you're into the 70 or the 120 years for that generation. if we are indeed in the fig tree generation, but I kind of think we might be. So, and I think that would be the kickoff, because you have to have that in place for that fig tree generation. So, and then throughout that fig tree generation, you have the beginning of the sorrows or birth pangs. That you have pestilence, you have famine, you have earthquakes, and you have war, and they're going to get stronger as you go through that whole generation.
Yeah.
And so tribulations that come along with that Jesus is going to describe right after the birth pangs. He says you're going to go through affliction, as it's used in the book of Matthew. That's the Greek word thlipsis. It's the same word that's used later on in Matthew for the great tribulation after the abomination. It's the same word that is used for the tribulation of the saints that are talked about in Revelation 7. And it's the same ideology that's used for the description of the great tribulation in the book of Mark. I think it's in 13:19, but it doesn't say tribulation there. It says affliction for the same event that's going to happen, that's going to be not seen since the creation of the world. And it's the same word, thlipsis. The translators just use different words, and it sort of confuses things.
Yeah.
So you've got this increasing tribulation. You have the tribulation before those 10 years that keeps increasing, that I think we're starting to see. Then you have 3 years of the rise of Babylon, I think, where it becomes higher, and then the full weight of the Babylon persecution in the first 3.5 years. And then for everybody who's still here for the last 3.5 years, that is the Great Tribulation. And the Great Tribulation is the same. You look at that word thlipsis as meaning trouble or persecution or tribulation or affliction. And it's never used with wrath. It's only used in terms of the tribulation of the saints, as opposed to the wrath of the unjust, as the wrath is reserved for in the last year. You have a cognate word that is part of the Old Testament, and it's the time of trouble that talked about in Daniel 12 when Michael rises. He rises at the midpoint of the last 7 years as a time of trouble. That is the Hebrew word sarah. And it has the exact same meanings as thlipsis. It has that, you have that cognate direct link if you can find it. And that's the same word that is used for the time of Jeremiah's trouble. That happens at the time of the second Exodus, that happens in the last 3.5 years. So you have tribulations that Christians are said to go through. You're going to have this increasing of tribulation through the fig tree generation. Then you have this 3 years of tribulation, then the tribulation of the saints, and then the tribulation of the rest of the whole world after the midpoint of the last 7 years. It's just sitting there to follow if you want to follow it.
If you want to follow it.
If you want to follow it, yeah, because it's a lot to follow. It always baffled me how people could conflate tribulation that the church goes through, with wrath. Like,
and we're told in the New Testament over and over that we're going to go through tribulation as Christians, but yet the tribulation has to be connected to wrath for some of the specific eschatological conclusions, particularly when it comes to the timing of rapture. So we're said to be, and wrath isn't used to describe tribulation.
right.
They're separate words. You have thumas and orge, which are the two words that are used like in Revelation 14, 16, and 19 for the wrath of God. And there's 4 Hebrew words that are used for wrath, and it can also be used for indignation and fury and anger and vengeances, but also used for wrath. And you get a similar flip-flopping for indignation and anger for those 2 Greek words that I talked about in Revelation 14, 16, and 19, but never with tribulation.
Interesting.
So it is a distinct event, and wrath is reserved for people who don't follow God. Now, that doesn't mean that some Christians won't suffer some of the tribulations of the last 3.5 years. Those who aren't taken, if the rapture, let's say even if the rapture happens just after the midpoint of the last 7 years, there's still people that are not going to be raptured, and they're going to have to earn their way into immortality through fire. They're going to be the ones that are tested, which we're told we're going to be saved from, that time of testing, the time of trial, the time of temptation. That's the mark of the beast time. After that, you have those people have to earn their way in through standing up against the whole system and being beheaded. And they're going to be rewarded in part of their resurrection sequence at the start of the millennium. So in understanding these things, you also have to understand the resurrection sequence, which is Christ, the first fruits, and then when he comes, those who are asleep who died in him, and those who are still alive. Okay, so the first fruits are those who are martyred for Jesus over the last 2,000 years, and whatever other saints that may be part of the Old Testament that might have been raised up. You would think that Moses would be part of that, right? And part of the 12 elders that are seen in the Revelation prophecy. But we're told who the first fruits are in a couple of different ways in the book of Revelation. First of all, in Revelation 6, these are the ones who have white robes, who were martyred for the testimony that they provided. And then they're told to wait for those to come out of the Great Tribulation to be slain for the testimony that they did, the same martyrdom. And those are shown in Revelation 7, which is the tribulation of the saints that we talked about. And then you have this 144,000 that are intermixed in there. They start their Great Commission in Revelation 7, where you have the tribulation of the saints going on. They're there to wake up lost Israel and to preach the gospel to the world, just as the two prophets are. The two prophets are slain and taken to heaven as part of the first fruits after a 3.5-year commission, as described in Revelation 11. The 144,000 first fruits are described in Revelation 14 in heaven. Right? So that would be understood as being slain for the testimony and specifically called the first fruits. And then after that, you get the summary for the last 3.5 years, which is going to be the time of the Exodus for awakened Israel and Judah that have fled to the wilderness and are also around the world to get ready for being broken out of the prisons by the breaker in the year of the Lord's favor before the year of the Lord's wrath, which is the last year of the last 7 years. And that you have a resurrection that's going to happen for the people of Israel, as both of those are brought back into one staff, as Ezekiel 37 talks about in the great Exodus. But in that Ezekiel 37 passage, you have the resurrection of Israel and Judah from the dead bone, from the bones, the rising of the dead bones. And that's lines up with what's talked about in Daniel 12, where the resurrection of Israel will be done at that time when Michael rises in the last 3.5 years, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting judgment. And that is talking about the same kind of event. So once you start to line those things up and get an understanding of the resurrections, and then you also have that other resurrection that's going to be for the ones who are beheaded that will rule with Christ. And then you have the resurrection of the dead at the end of the millennium. It just fits if you allow it to.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode,
yes, you can go to our Patreon.
Absolutely.
It is.
I normally have a pre-recorded thing that we do here that I neglected to add. You're welcome. You're probably getting sick of it.
We decided to do Tucker Carlson and do it live. Oh, wait, that's Bill O'Reilly. Well, yeah.
Where's the thing? Let's do this one. Let's do this one.
Yeah.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview and you're enjoying it, head on over to patreon.com /the Gosslings, or scan that handy dandy QR code right there. And you can hear, again, there's like a whole extra hour of exclusive Gary Wayne content on there. We're going to have part 2 of this interview play on part 2 of 3, really.
Yeah.
Play on Thursday.
Yep.
8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So be sure to join us then as well.
Yeah.
But head on over to Patreon if you want to get the goods.
Yeah,
You wanna
and
get the
it's a
good
great
stuff.
it's a great place to be. We have 5 different tiers, I think, on our
Yeah.
Patreon level, and they offer a wide array of things for you. Tons of merch, signed copies of books, welcome letters, or if you just like want to know who we have coming up, who's
Yep.
scheduled, access to the guest list calendar, and but the big thing that you get out of it is the full unedited interviews, and that really is there to protect the channel, because we used to do these interviews as live streams,
Yeah.
and then we got put in the naughty box a couple times
We sure did.
for it. So now
and it was Gary Wayne that got us
it
there.
was yeah
It was a Gary Wayne interview. He said he said the Wuhan flu word during the time of the pandemic.
And
that was enough. And that was enough.
Jay Reese Bradley says, I like being on the Patreon and getting the early stuff, but I like hanging out with everyone here too. Very good point. Yeah. So Nick so we record these on Sunday, and then Nick will edit them throughout the week to make this version that you see that is YouTube friendly. And then, but before that, usually Monday or Tuesday, Nick will upload the full unedited interview for our Patreon members.
Yep.
And,
in all of its exclusive glory.
Yeah. And it's sometimes, man, I hate to say it, but sometimes it really is the best part of the interview.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like gild the lily here, but like, especially with Gary, we talk about some stuff that you can't talk about anywhere else. And with some of our guests that are coming up, it's going to be even more important. We got a couple on the books that, like, honestly, sometimes it's actually kind of tough to like curate YouTube friendly versions of the interviews with the subject matter that we're talking about. So anyways, it's totally worth checking out, and we appreciate everybody's support. It is certainly not required, but it is greatly appreciated. Just like all the super chats and like all the QR codes that are scanned, like all that stuff helps us, because Nick and I have day jobs. So like Nick is a workhorse. He does like 80% of everything. I
don't know. You stand on top of the comments. It's like, that's a lot.
That's
a lot.
Fair enough.
Some of these comments, not you guys, but comments after the fact when it's not live.
Dude, we had
it's like another level of like distance. There's no accountability. So they just say,
some of the fly by night like air raid comments that happen are just, it's like dirty diaper air raid. And
they're seagull comments. Like seagull just flies over, takes a crap on it, and flies away.
Dude, I didn't know why they called it a poop deck until I worked on the boats in Destin, Florida. And then I understood, because every morning I would have to go up there and swab the deck, literally swab the deck of what we called Osprey omelets.
That's nasty.
I understand why the military calls that deployment vehicle an Osprey, because it can hold a lot of crap. So
Kim Dawes says, and for us poor unemployed sods who can't afford Patreon, oh well, glad to get what I can. Well, we try to do this as consistently as we can. We have a great chat community, as you can tell. And hope it's valuable. You don't have to sign up for Patreon, but if you would, hey, subscribe, hit the like button. That helps too. That helps tremendously. So share the video. I mean, all of that really, really helps grow the show. So we really appreciate you watching tonight.
It does, because it tells the YouTube algorithm AI beast system that like we're actually worth putting in the queue when people search for Gary Wayne or Derek Gilbert or whatever it is. So like it kind of does. It sounds cheesy to like ask people to do it, but that's why. It's like, dude, if you want to see this interview, if you want other people to see it, unless you share the link directly, doing those little things actually does feed in. But anyways, you guys know all that. So
what else? Mother's Day is coming up. We won't be live on Mother's Day. We're going to be playing our interview with Brian Godawa. Jonathan will be in the chat. But it'll be pre-recorded. So in advance, happy Mother's Day.
Yes,
to
happy
all you
Mother's
moms
Day
out there. You're greatly appreciated, and we're glad you're watching tonight. What else?
Buy Human Pledge.
Let's do Buy Human.
Nick, why don't you tell people about this awesome thing that you have created called
let's do this
the By Human Pledge.
Shabam. The By Human Pledge. This is for authors, artists, editors, cover designers, musicians, anyone who creates art and is feeling threatened, as many of us are, by the emergence of AI and how much displacement it's going to cause in the arts, in the workplace, and in the arts. I have fashioned a pledge as an author that I've publicly taken that I will never, ever, ever use AI to write my books.
Yeah.
I don't think people want to read a story generated by a robot.
Nope.
It needs to be authentic. It needs to come from the soul of the artist. I think that's what resonates most with people. So I won't use AI to write my books. I won't use AI for cover design or editing. I'm going to engage other people who have those same values and pay them and do what I can to keep that alive. And if you're an artist and you want to take a similar pledge, you can scan the QR code. That'll take you to the pledge. Type in your name, the type of artist you are, and that's it. Add your name to the list. We already have several names on there, and would love to have your support as we defiantly, maybe we're going down in a blaze of glory. Maybe it's pointless and useless, but you know what? I'd rather die human and buy human
than live on my knees
than
for the
serve the
Terminators.
beast. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We are nothing if we are not the champions of lost causes and hopeless battles here at the Gosslings.
Yeah, and
we are the Spartans at Thermopylae.
That's right.
Bring forth your legions of AI Persian immortals.
That's right.
We will strike them down, build robot mountains of their robot bodies. I don't know.
It's good. If you're
Give them nothing. Take from them everything.
You know what's funny about that is if you're talking to an army of AI, I can see you holding like a squirt gun.
Just a super soaker.
Yeah, super soaker.
Just shorts them all out. Maybe that's why
invest in super soaker. Nerf, right?
Yeah, maybe that's why the Resistance in Terminator series was always on the ropes, because they were over there like, oh, we need plasma rifles, and it's like, dude, they're robots.
Yeah,
just use water. Duh.
Dude.
Where's John Connor? Get him on the phone. I know he's alive right now. Anyways.
Let's see. Mike Fisher says, great show once again, Goss Brothers.
Thank you, Mike.
Gary Wayne. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the interview, and that's just, one half. We'll have the other half on Thursday.
Yeah.
Hope you guys can check it out. Kimberly says, I am Sparta.
This is Sparta.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
This is anti-AI Sparta over here. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Did they just crown the Antichrist?
Oh, good question, Dorothy.
All of our sources point to yes.
Yeah.
My Magic 8 Ball Cohen says yes, they did.
I was gonna say our one source.
Our one source, our Magic 8 Ball says yes, they just did.
And we will be having him back, by the way.
Yeah, to discuss the coronation.
Yeah.
So he's taking his notes. He's doing his research and study, and look forward to that conversation. That'll be great.
Kira asks, is there an actual link to that, please? Are you talking about the By Human pledge?
Yeah, yes, there is. I'll dig that up. I can't multitask very well, so do some talking while I dig this up.
Yeah, it's all right.
I can get it. Hold on a second.
Yeah, Gabriel Bello, come with me if you want to live. By the way, Gabriel Bello, also a master of impressions. We did a live stream called I think, what was it, Gabe? The quiet part out loud, saying the quiet part out loud. And during that roundtable between me and Gabe and Ian Brown, I think we did that on Tuesday. Gabe spent a solid 2 to 3 minutes speaking only in an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
It's really good.
And it was pretty good. Yeah, most people can only do old Arnie for a couple of lines, but Gabe held in there, man. And you should go check that out. I hope Gabe does a whole lot more, those more long form interviews and roundtables and stuff to really bring that watch time up. It's so funny. It's like Gabe's channel and our channel kind of have a similar thing in that we have hours of watch time because we do these long form interviews, which are actually pretty easy to do in a way. Like the really hard ones are the 1 hour interviews.
Yeah.
It's way harder to do a 1 hour interview than it is a 3 hour interview. It seems bizarre until you really get into it. But we've always been lacking in subscribers. And then Gabe's got tons of subscribers, but because he does more short form videos, music videos, songs, stuff like that, the watch hours aren't there. So like, dude, you could do Gabe a massive favor by like just pulling up his channel and just loading playlists and just letting it ride.
Oh yeah.
You know, and maybe if you did it with like a couple of Gmail accounts and you just
Protect yourself.
I'm just
CYA.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
There's the link. I just put the link. It's just a Google Docs form where we collect names and artist type and so forth. You can click on that, sign up, and you'll actually get an email kind of showing you the percentage of different types of authors and artists and so forth that have signed up for the pledge. And I believe you can actually see the list of people who've signed up. And so that is where you can go if you want to buy human. Maybe you're not an artist, but you want to be able to, you want to maybe purchase a book.
Yeah.
And you don't know what authors are cheating and which ones are actually writing. Have at it. It's a list. It's a short list right now. It's a new thing, but we're adding names, all the time. So, and Jay Reese Bradley. Jay Reese was the first one who signed.
Yeah. Can't believe you beat me to it.
Yep. She was the first one that signed up.
Yeah. The little sister we never asked for. That was a genius comment, Jay. That was really funny. I think Gabe signed it too, didn't he?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I need to go back and look at the list.
Gabe.
He needs to. I think he doesn't want to.
No, I think
he doesn't want to pigeonhole himself, and I get it.
That's fair. Yeah, one thing that it remains. Oh, Tricky signed.
Tricky sign. Nice. What's up? Thank you, Tricky.
Thanks, Tricky. I really, every time I talk about the Buy Human Pledge or AI and art, and we talked about that with Brian Gadawa, by the way, which you'll see next week. But every time we talk about that, I always in my head I envision Roxana, and Roxana. Let's see if I can pronounce her name correctly. Roxana Barona Oliva.
That's pretty good. It's getting better every time.
I'm trying.
That's
well,
good.
She might like put a hex on me if I'm wrong. So,
no.
But no, Roxana's a real sweetheart, and she's genius. We've interviewed her a couple of times. She has done some artwork for me for my Heavenly Realms series, and it's a process. You have like 3 or 4 Zoom meetings, and she takes all these pictures and she like fields options with you and everything. Yes, Jay, I always envision Roxana. Listen, it's a good thing. The Lord is merciful to Roxana that she is happily married in Mexico City, or else like I'd be changing my citizenship. She is awesome. So, but anyways, and we're actually going to have her back on. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm your Huckleberry. Poor soul. Why, John or Ringo? Look like somebody just walked over your grave. But I always think about, Roxana pours her heart and soul into this stuff, just like Adam does, and the work is exquisite. I mean, the brush strokes are deliberate. She uses these really fine, like Warhammer 40K paint brushes to like do the little details, and it doesn't translate digitally. I have the physical copies, and it's so tragic to think that like people who don't know that quality like Roxana exists out there will never think to reach out to Roxana or someone like her to use, instead they'll just use AI.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. Like I know authors who have used AI for stuff and everything, but truly, man, like for their artwork, for their character artwork and stuff, like not just Brian, but like other people. I've known other guys who've done it too. And I get it. Man, Roxana's artwork is feel the humanity. Yeah, transcending, logos of humanity. It's just something.
Well, we got to get her opinion on that.
Yeah.
But
maybe. Yeah. So.
What else? You want to read some comments?
Yeah, we'll Tricky's at the bottom. Joanna Breeze says, share the bottom
out of the post. Amen.
Yeah. Kimberly says, it's all about the acceptable day of the Lord when his will is fulfilled. One could interpret it properly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Amen. Tricky says, I need saving. I've got Hermes, Yeah.
If you guys have been following the
Gary
the Hermes running joke in the chat, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Let's see. Gabe says we all need the streams, tribes, of the church to come together. Amen, Gabe. You know, we were talking with Brian about that. How like it's everything's so balkanized and polarizing. Like even Christians like just can't get over like these little minor things. Like, oh, you pre-trib, and then just all these comments in the thing, and you're just like, dude, like, okay, so some of us believe the Earth is flat, and some of us believe it's round. Like. I tell you, like, the older I get, the more I agree with Dad of like a simple faith. Of like, I get so much less judgy about like whether other Christians are Christians or if they're living right or, you know what I mean?
You don't
like,
believe in a pre-trib rapture. You're not even saved.
dude.
You
I
have
just-
no hope.
Yeah. You are verboten. Into the wasteland with you, brand him and send him beyond the gates. Into the wilderness you must go to fight with the jackals over the carrion and ash of your broken dreams.
You were born in the wrong millennium.
Tell me about it.
You could have been a great prophet.
Listen, I just wanted to be a hospitaller.
I'm talking like way before then.
Oh,
I'm talking like biblical Old Testament prophet.
I want to be on like David's. I want to be what is it? Joe, help me out. Who's the chaplain? Right in the military, it's the chaplain. Yeah, I want to be the chaplain of David's mighty men. I basically just want to be Harry Connick Jr. from Independence Day.
Yeah.
That's right, Black Knights. We're gonna fight the aliens.
All right. I don't think we have anything else for tonight. Real quick, hold on a second. Let me get my captions up. I want to mention. Let's see. I want to mention our Spartan level patron here.
Yes.
Spartan level patron.
Yes.
At Gosshoglifts. Go to at Gosshoglifts on Instagram.
Yeah.
Gosshoglifts for fitness content that inspires young Christian men to reclaim their identity and purpose in a generation of darkness.
Yes.
Well written. Gosshog wrote that, by the way. Well done. Well done. And if you haven't become a patron yet, I'm going to put this up one more time. Where's Patreon? Where's Patreon? It's all over. Oh, it's way down here. Okay. Sorry. If you haven't been a patron, if you haven't become a patron yet, go to patreon.com/the Gosslings. We would be honored to have your support there.
Yeah.
And
means we can get a new computer and
which we need. I've been like watching things real close tonight, super nervous, but everything so far, everything's okay. Everything's okay. Should we do the run through?
Pills are good. Oh yeah.
Pills are good. Pills are good.
Nick's got a killer run through. I am so impressed with how he does this. So if you're ready, hit it, baby.
Let's do it. All right. And now for our patron shout out, starting with our Pressfield level patrons. We have Joanne B and Lisa S. Thank you for your super generous support. Hemingway level patrons, Tim, Jody, and America in Cars, who's in the chat tonight. What up, man? Thank you so much for supporting us. We hope you're enjoying the Patreon. And now for our Orwell level patrons, Courtney, Bob, Margaret, Julie, Rita Lee, Suzanne, Bay, Joshua, Lenka, Lanya, Melissa, Vicky, Kelly, Marcia. I think Kelly actually dropped out this week, so forget her.
Well, whatever.
And then the backbone of the
Can't all be cool.
Orwell level patrons. Jabber, Charmaine, Jerry, Marcia, Cheryl, Chris Caps, also in the chat, Karen B, Canine Training, Mama Shaw, saw her tonight, Cascadian Breeze, Gabe Bello Music,
Gabriel
longtime
Bello.
supporter of the show, Mike Fisher, also both gentlemen in the chat tonight. Thank you guys. Carol, Jamie, Sean, Sonny, Michelle, Charlotte. We love you guys so much. Thank you for your support. You're helping us get this thing off the ground.
Yep.
And I did it. And I've got like, you did it. 25 seconds left of this amazing song. Listen. Dance with us. Come on, Gosshog. No, come on. Show
Everybody-
your biceps. Bring
You're
the bicep
the
in front.
hottest one out of
Come on.
all of us, Joe.
Come on.
Everybody's like,
oh, is he single? He's
so cute.
Now the music's over.
that's all right. Just come like squat right here. Yeah, get the
Here
Braveheart
comes,
sword.
Here comes Gosshog.
Do some sweet moves in the
What
background.
did I do? Uh-oh. What's going on here? Activate chat. All right.
He's enabled. Chat
Can you
rooms.
guys here, let me turn this back on. Can you guys still see us? That was supposed to be our outro. Did I not? Do we need to enable the chat again? Did we run out of chat space? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. They turned our chat off. Oh, wait. Nope. Here we go. I'm not sure if I'm in a porn movie or in an elevator.
Maybe both, Tricky. Hashtag brother love.
Emotional damage. Again, it is the legend.
The legend. All right. I think that is all we have for tonight. Is that
I
right?
think so.
All right.
Yep.
Well, we'll do our sign off then.
Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
It's Luciferian.
And I'm Nick.
I'm your huckleberry.
And we are the Gosslings. Go forth.
And strike down the mother darkness.
Vertical punch.